Welcome back to my YouTube channel. Today we're making native rice and the ingredients will be in the description below. Just follow the recipe and trust me, you're going to have the best tasting, best looking, most appealing native rice that you have ever had before. If you have any questions after watching the video, just comment and I'll try my best to answer them. Let's get right into this video. So we're going to be making native rice. I'm going to show you how to make the best native rice. First, your pepper mix is very important. And for this recipe, I'm using the red jalapeno peppers and chili peppers. Okay? Now, if you're Nigerian, basically, you could use Tatase and Shombo. Now, it is important to de-seed your pepper. Make sure there is no seed when you are using your peppers. Apart from the Scotch bonnet, the Scotch bonnet is the only thing allowed to still have the seeds. Those are the smaller peppers there. But your Tatase and your Shombo or your chili peppers and your red jalapeno should be this. That's remove the seeds. If not, it's going your sauce is your rice or your sauce or whatever you're making is going to be bitter, and you do not want that. Okay. So now we're going to start by, for this recipe, I'm using goat meat. I used goat meat, I used assorted, but then the assorted I have already boiled it because assorted tends to cook for too long. So I boiled it in my pressure cooker already. So I'm using assorted, I'm using goat meat, I'm using I think I used a bit of chopped snails. But it's all optional. You could use whatever you want. So for my goat meat, I start by seasoning it with some blended Scotch bonnets and some onions and some seasoning cubes, and I add in a bit of water. You don't want to use too much water. Usually, if my meat was frozen, I wouldn't even add water. I would just cover the pot and the ice would melt and release its juices and then let the meat cook. So now I just add in a bit of water because I want my meat to be able to absorb the flavor. That's the seasoning cubes, the flavor from the pepper, the onions. Basically, I just need it to be tasty before I add in some extra water. So as at this point, it had cooked, and then I had added in some extra water, and I'm just checking it to see that it is ready. Now I use male goat when using goat meat because it cooks way faster. Okay, the female goat is the tougher one. With male goat, in like 10-15 minutes your goat meat is very soft. So now once that is done, I'm going to be showing you how I achieve the consistency of peppers for my that's for my native rice. Okay, so I use this blender. It's called a food processor or a meat grinder. So I basically put it in here and then I pulse it for a bit so that it could give me that rough consistency. Okay, so now once that's done, we're going to move into parboiling our rice. Now this oil I'm using is the oil that I use to fry my goat's meat that I cooked because it adds like an extra flavor to your rice. So that's vegetable oil. I put it, I fry my goat's meat, and then I take it out and then I use it to cook my rice. So I add in my vegetable, that's the oil. I add in some blended Scotch bonnet and onions, and then I put in my washed basmati rice, and I'm basically just going to add in some seasoning cubes, and I'm going to toast this together. I'm going to toast the rice in the goat meat flavored oil and the pepper and the seasoning cubes. I'll just toast this for a bit until it looks, I don't know how to explain it, but I would show you how it looks in a bit. So yeah, so you want to toast it until this point. Make sure you're constantly stirring so that your rice doesn't burn. You don't want it to burn. Now this is what we have here, and this is what my rice is looking like. Okay, so now once that is done, the next thing we're going to do is I'm going to add in my meat stock. That is the stock of my goat meat. Now I really like the goat meat flavor for all these native rice, native pasta, soups and all. I really like it. You could use beef if you want, but I personally prefer the goat meat flavor. So I'm going to be adding in my goat meat stock to my rice. Okay, so once I put that in, I mix it all together. I add in some extra water if needed. Now I'm taking out this, I forgot to take out some stock because I'm going to be needing it for the sauce for the native rice. So I just took out a bit of it, and then I'm also going to be adding in some extra water to my rice, and then I give that a good stir. Now you don't need too much water to cook basmati rice. Basmati rice cooks with heat. I think I've said that in my video for jollof rice and my video for coconut fried rice. So it cooks more with heat. So when you're adding it, you don't need too much water to make it properly cooked. So don't add water as if you're making what's the name? You don't add water as if you're making regular Nigerian, that's regular long grain rice. Okay, so now I add in my water. As you can see here, this is like a plain video of me cooking. So once I add in the water, I give it a good mix, and I'm just going to cover up the pot, and then I let it cook. Now once I cover it and let it cook, I think this was ready in, I don't like giving time because the my heat and yours might be different. But basically I just kept checking it, and once it was ready, it was ready. Okay. So now, as at this point, I think this was about 15 to 20 minutes later, my rice was ready and it was fully cooked. You want your rice to be properly cooked. You don't want it to be soggy. You don't want it to be too soft. You don't want it to break apart. So it has to be perfectly cooked. Okay? Perfectly cooked, because I can't tell you, well, let it be 80% done, because when you put it in your sauce, in all honesty, it's not going to stay on fire for too long for me to say, oh, it's going to cook in the sauce. It has to be perfectly cooked, and then you now stir it. It's at that point I now stir. When it's cooking, please just leave it alone. Do not stir up and down. It's not jollof rice you're cooking. So as at this point, I'm just showing you the consistency of my rice, the grains, that it's coming out single, and it is perfectly done. Now I'm going to proceed to make the sauce for our native rice. Okay, so now I'm going to be adding in my palm oil to my pan. Now you do not want this oil to bleach at all. You do not want it to bleach at all, so that your rice has the color. You know, you're not using tomato paste or anything, or rather I don't use tomato paste to make native rice. So once I add in my oil, immediately I add in my blended pepper and my onions. I add in some locust beans. That's iru. I think that's what the Yorubas call it. So adding some locust beans, that's very optional. You don't have to use it. And then this is my blended peppers. Okay, that is my chili and my red jalapenos. Or for Nigerians, your Tatase and your Shombo. Or you could just use regular red bell peppers. It would work. Just make sure you deseed it and you blend it for it to have this rough consistency. Okay, this is what you want for your native rice to be looking as good as mine looks. You know me, I don't gatekeep. I'm going to tell you every single thing that I do to ensure that I have the best meals always. Okay, so now as at this point, I'm going to just fry up this pepper base. Fry it out until the water dries out, and you can see the oil visibly showing on top really well. That's how you know that your pepper base is ready for you to start seasoning. I personally do not like seasoning my pepper base until I know that it is properly fried and it is dry. So as you can see here, this is what you want. You can see the way the oil is floating. It's at this point you know that your pepper base is ready. So now I'm just going to give this a quick stir, and once I do that, I start adding in my proteins that I have fried. So I'm adding in my fried snails, I'm adding in some my goat meat, I'm adding in my Kpomo. I'm basically just going to add every protein that I'm going to be using inside. You could use whatever. I promise you, you could use whatever protein that you like. Anything that would make you happy. If you like goat meat, you like turkey, whatever you like that pleases you. I'm not going to tell you, oh please, my mother doesn't cook it like that. Put what you're the one eating it, so put whatever you want. So I add in my fried shaki, goat meat, Kpomo, and snail. I'm going to season this, and then the next thing I'm going to be doing is I'm going to be adding in a bit of crayfish. You do not need too much crayfish for your native rice, because in fact, for you don't need too much crayfish for your native rice. Since you're stir frying it, if not, it's going to dry out the rice. Or if you're cooking itself, if you put too much crayfish, it will dry out the rice. Personally, I don't like my native rice to be looking dry. I don't know if you understand what I'm saying. So I don't like that. So because of that, you don't need. I just put like a tablespoon of crayfish, and that was all. It was enough for me. As I added my seasoning cubes already, and then I'm going to give that a good mix, and then I'll be adding in my meat stock. Remember the meat stock that I took out of the rice that time, the one I had forgotten to take out. Yes, so I'm going to do that. I'm going to be adding it into my pepper base. Now once I add that, I give this a quick stir, and what this is going to do is, you realize our sauce was dry before, but once I add in the meat stock, it's going to make it look, I don't know what word to use, but let's say saucier. it's going to look like a sauce, like it's going to be thick and juicy at the same time. So that is what you want. Okay, so you taste it, and if needed, you could add in whatever seasoning cube. I don't like using salt personally, so I just added in seasoning cubes. If you notice throughout this recipe, you'd not see me say, oh, I'm adding salt. I did not add salt. So I tasted it and then some extra seasoning cubes, and then I added that, and I cover it for some more just so that my meat could soak up the juices from the that's from the sauce. Okay, so that's what I want. So I let it just cook for about a minute or two, and then I'm going to give this a good mix. And then the next thing I'm going to be going in with is my cooked rice. That is the rice that we parboiled earlier. That's the next thing I'm going to be going in with. I hope you guys are understanding. If you do not, you could just comment what you do not understand, and I would try my best to respond to you as soon as I see it. Okay, so now, as I said, I'm going in with my cooked rice. You see how fluffy this rice is. It is important that your rice is not overcooked. I cannot ever overemphasize this enough. If your rice is overcooked, your rice is already not going to look good. So whether you're using basmati rice or regular rice, just make sure that your rice is the right consistency. It is perfectly cooked. It is not sticking together. And you also need to use a good brand of rice when you know you're going to be stir frying rice. Make sure you invest. If you normally use any local type of rice, try your best. If you're going to make native rice, maybe get maybe big bowl is quite strong, or that's for Nigerians. I'm speaking to Nigerians here. Or if you can get that par excellence rice, it's expensive with like a long grain rice, that's also really good. So once I add in my rice, I added in some scent leaf, as you can see, and then I give this a good mix. I basically just mix this all up together. And guys, can you see what we have here? Like, even watching from the phone, you can tell that this rice is going to be so good. Like, it is too good. This recipe is goated, and it is always going to give you a very good result every single time. I stand by it. I swear by it. It is really good. So now, as you can see, I'm mixing my rice up together. I'm just going to let the scent leave to release its flavors in the rice, and we are done. Very simple, very easy to make. Okay, it is very simple and very easy to make. So this is me just showing you what the rice looks like up close, just so that you understand what I mean. So the peppers, the consistency of your peppers add to the look of your rice. The proteins you use, how you dice them up, it adds to the look of your rice. Okay, so now I'm just going to cover the pot and let it steam for a bit, and then once I do, I'm going to be adding in some eggs. I like some boiled eggs in my native rice. It's a preference. You could skip it if you want, but I like some boiled eggs. So now I add in the boiled eggs. I give it a good mix, and our rice is ready. I'm just going to plate this up so that you guys would see what it looks like in a plate, and just picture yourself eating it. But if you've learned anything, just let me know. If you have any questions, just let me know. And please share this video, like, comment, and subscribe to my channel for more amazing recipes. As you can tell, I always give you the full gist. I don't miss anything. Okay, I don't keep anything. I would tell you how it is.